Hi everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this card for you today using a bunch of products from the Holiday Wishes collection, including the gorgeous Watercolor Pines stamp set and the amazing Snowflakes 3D embossing folder. I'm going to do a little bit of inking with this folder, so I'm going to show you what I did here for my card to begin with. On the left side here of the open folder is the flat side, and on the right is the raised side. So on that flat side, I'm going to use some Uncharted Mariner Distress ink, and I've just placed the folder over top of just a piece of copy paper, just in case I get any ink over the edges here. And I'm just taking that ink pad and I'm just kind of squishing and twisting and patting the ink onto the folder. Then what I'll do is take my water spritzer bottle and I'll spritz the ink with some water. Then I'll place my cardstock in the opposite side of the folder and close the folder up and run that through my die cutting machine with the 3D embossing folder sandwich. What that's going to do is transfer the ink onto the paper. It is a little bit messy, and I'm going to take my plates and the folder to the sink and clean them up. And I'll use a little bit of a baby wipe for my surface here to get everything clean. But isn't this beautiful when it's all finished? You'll notice that the raised edge of the snowflakes are mostly white and then the background is blue. So you can see how nicely the folder cleaned up. And I'll just give you a really nice close-up here of how beautiful this distressed background looks when it's finished. Now I'm just going to take my heat tool here and go ahead and make sure that this paper is nice and dry before I go on to my next step. And once that's done, I'll set that aside. Now I am going to be using some heavy stock paper from Ranger. This is just a really nice bright white paper that will take a little bit of moisture. I'm taking my Watercolor Pines stamp set here, and I'm going to ink up the first stamp with some Stormy Sky Distress ink, and then I'm going to follow that with a little bit of Seedless Preserves Distress ink. The Seedless Preserves I just put around the edge of the pine tree, and now I've spritzed it with water. I'll give that a nice press onto that heavy stock paper and just really give it a second to absorb into the paper before I lift the stamp off. So you can just see I'm holding it there just to give that a chance to really get absorbed into the paper nicely. And I'll just go ahead and open the MISTI, and you can just see how beautiful, what a beautiful, gorgeous watercolor image you get with these stamps. They're really, really fun. I'm going to do that exact same technique with 4 of the stamps from the Watercolor Pine set. And you'll just see here, same thing, going in with that Stormy Sky Distress Ink cube. I do really like the cubes for this technique because it does allow you to kind of get into smaller areas. So when I'm adding that to the edges, it's really easy to get that ink onto those smaller areas with the ink cube. You can definitely do this with the larger pads as well, but I do really like the ink cubes for this technique for sure. I'll go ahead and do that same water spritzing and then give that a good press onto the heavy stock. You could use watercolor paper as well for this technique if you want to. You would not have to. The heavy stock does take this treatment really nicely. And once again, giving that just a really nice press, allowing that ink to just really nicely absorb into the paper before I lift that off. I'll go ahead and clean those stamps. And I just wanted to show you here, there are stumps for some of the trees. Now, if you're not wanting to die cut these, you could stamp the stump directly onto the tree, but there is a separate die for the stump as well. So if you want to die cut the stumps with the tree, you have to stamp the stumps separately. So if you're just doing a single layer and not die cutting, you could put the stump right on there. So I just wanted to show you that. There's lots of different ways that you can use these, of course. So just be creative and you'll come up with something really cool. So I just took a second to dry that with my heat tool, and now I'll take the coordinating die set for the Watercolor Pines, and I'll just grab the matching die for each of these different stamps that I've stamped out, and I'll tape those down to the paper in place, and I'll just go ahead and die cut those out with my die cutting machine. And there are more trees than what I have stamped here in the set, but I just wanted 4 for my little card. So there you can see how they're all die cut. I love that white edge. It actually looks like snow, and that's going to be perfect for my project. So I just wanted to show you how nicely these are going to look on that snowflake background. with the blues and the purples. So really, really nice distressed looking project here with a real watercolor look to it. So I'm going to size down this piece here. I'm sizing the paper down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And this is just going to allow me to mat this paper with some pattern paper from the Winter Wonderland paper pad. So at first I thought I might just size it to 5 1/4 by 4 inches, but then I decided I wanted a mat. So this is a paper from that 8 1/2 by 6 inch paper pad. And what's beautiful is when you cut these papers in half, you have a paper that's large enough for 2 A2 size cards. So this is that pattern paper pad. It's gorgeous. I love it. And I'm going to size this paper just 1/4 of an inch larger. So this is going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. So still 1/4 of an inch smaller than my card base. So I'm going to have a nice white border and then this navy and then my distress background here. So they're all just going to layer up nicely so that I just get a really nice framed in card front when I'm finished. So now I'm just going to start to assemble the project. I'm going to use my Honeybee liquid adhesive here on this pattern paper piece. I'll just go ahead and put a little bit all the way around the perimeter and then a bit in the center and get that adhered onto my A2 size top folding white card base. And then I'll do the same thing here with the embossed paper with my Honeybee liquid adhesive. I'll give that a really good press so that all of those layers are really nicely adhered, especially right around the very edges of the paper. Now I'm going to be using one of my favorite sentiments of all time from Honeybee. This is the Peace, Love, Joy set. I love this set so much. And I'm going to be stamping it, the word peace, out with our Honeybee Intense Black ink. And I'm also going to do 2 other little sentiments from that set, wishing you and this holiday season, so that our entire sentiment is wishing you peace this holiday season. Now, before I die cut those, I wanted to do a little bit of watercoloring in some of these areas on the word peace. So in the open areas, I'm going to just go ahead and use that Seedless Preserves ink cube again and a little bit of water and my watercolor brush to color in the open areas there, just to add a little bit of color to the sentiment as well. I think this is just a really nice touch, and you could actually do this with your metallic paints, watercolor paints, all kinds of different options for this. It's just a really nice option to have that open space so that you could, if you want, add some coloring. So I'm just going to very carefully add in a little bit of pigment into those areas. And I'm trying not to add too much water here to my ink. So you'll notice that I am dabbing off on the paper towel whenever I feel like I have just a little bit too much water in that brush. So I'm just going to finish up here. And I really love this silver brush because it does have a really nice fine tip on it. And it does allow you to get into all of these just tiny little nooks and crannies. Now there is a coordinating die set for Peace, Love, Joy, which is fantastic. Every one of the sentiments in that set has a coordinating die, which is lovely. And I've die cut those all out. And now I'm going to put those onto my card. Now the word peace is going to be bumped up with some foam adhesive, as are the other 2 sentiment strips as well. So I'm just getting that foam adhesive on there. I'm just bringing this towards myself so that I can get my head over top of this and try to get this as straight as possible. Probably should have gotten my T-square ruler out, but I didn't have it handy, so I'm just eyeballing these as best I can. I am trying to use the grid lines on my glass mat as well to help me out a little bit also. So I've got those sentiments on there. They're pretty straight, and I have used, like I said, foam adhesive for each of those. Now these 2 trees that I'm going to place down onto the card first, I'm just gluing with liquid adhesive, and I will give those a really good press until I'm certain they're adhered. The 2 top trees are going to be attached to the card with some foam adhesive to give them a little bit of dimension as well. And I'm just using my Honeybee tweezers to help me get everything into place. I'm going to use some Dina Wakley white gloss spray now, and I'm going to add a little splatter of some snow with this white acrylic paint. And I'm just using a fine brush to get a combination of some really fine white splatter and some larger splatter spots as well. Now that that's dry, I'm taking some stickles, and this is just a really pretty kind of almost a clear with a little bit of an iridescent sparkle. So these are the Stardust stickles. And I'm just adding a little bit of sparkle and shine to the trees in a few areas. And then I'll also add a little bit of those stickles to the peace sentiment here and there as well. For holiday cards especially, I really love adding a little bit of glitter, sparkle, and shine. And I think that this just really brightens up the card even a little bit more. So now I'm just going to show you in the light here how this looks. Hopefully you can pick up the little bit of stickles there. Thank you so much for watching me today, friends. I have linked up in the description box below to all of the products that I've used. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe. I'd love to hear what you thought of my card in the comments section, and I will see you again very soon. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.